What's up everyone? Let's put some paint on this 1/72 scale La-5 from ClearProp models. Lots and lots of layers of paint. If you want to see the main construction of this model, I'll link the previous video in the description, or it should be in your top right corner right about now. Anyway, let's get right into it. So as I'm cleaning the model with alcohol and priming it, let me explain to you a bit of what my plan is. The idea here is to make a worn and battered Soviet fighter from the Stalingrad front in 1942. Basically make it look like it's been through some shit. And because we're painting this in a winter whitewash, we can go absolutely ham with weathering and chipping. Oh, and let's get one more thing out of the way. I have never painted a winter whitewash. Thus, I don't really feel qualified to teach any techniques here, so I'll just be explaining my methods and thought processes along the way. Just something to keep in mind. Anyway, enough bantering, let's get to painting. Starting with the bottom of the aircraft, I paint the whole underside with Tamiya light blue. No special techniques here, just a nice uniform coat that will serve as a base for all of the other effects we will be painting. Next, let's paint some random splattering effect with the Tamiya sky blue. Also, I'm trying out these new stencils I got from Ushi van der Rosten that make black basing and other similar effects a lot easier. I'm simply holding the stencils very close to the model and spraying a very diluted paint to slowly build up the effect, until we get something like this. Now let's come back with the original color and with a very diluted paint start covering up the splotches we just made. Then I added a few drops of white into the paint and did a little bit of post shading by just highlighting the control surfaces and some of the panels and hatches on the bottom of the aircraft. If some of the contrast seems a little bit much right now, don't worry. All the washes and varnishes coming in the future will tone everything down significantly, so it's okay for now. Before I can start laying down the color on the top side, I paint the roots of the wings with aluminum and then put on a few coats of chipping fluid. These parts would get heavy traffic all the time, from the pilot walking into the cockpits, mechanics accessing the engine, gun ports, or fuel caps. Reference images also show us that these parts were chipped to the metal. Alright, let's put on the green. For this I'm using the Soviet AMT-4 green from AK Real Colors. I'm using the same techniques that I used to paint the bottom of the aircraft, so first, just a nice uniform coat. Then I used this shade of RAF cockpit green and the Ushi stencils to make the spatter effect on the green, and then I come back over it with the original shade. For post shading I mixed in a little deck tan with the color, because using white would just kill the shade of green and make it really pale and unnatural. And yeah, I know this is all going to be covered up with white, but just let me do my unnecessary shading, okay? This helps me sleep at night. So it's time to paint the second color. I have a goal to get better at airbrushing because, truth be told, it's not that great right now. So I figured this would be the perfect opportunity to try freehand painting a camo, as all this is going to be covered with white anyway. I can't really tell you how much paint versus thinner I used here because I sort of just estimated everything by eye until it felt right. But I'm using my Iwata Eclipse with a 0.3mm nozzle, and my airbrush was practically touching the surface of the model as I was doing this. This took just about as long as it looks like, until the result was something like this. The borders aren't as sharp as I wanted them to be, but again, it doesn't really matter here because this is going to be entirely covered with white. So let's reactivate that chipping fluid we applied earlier with some water, and start chipping away at the paint with a toothpick. Once we're happy with the result, we need to apply a coat of flat varnish over our work, and then let it completely cure. This will not only serve as a good base coat for the upcoming chipping fluid, but will also protect our current result from the white chipping. That way, when we'll reactivate the chipping fluid in the future, we'll have a layer of white chipping and underneath a layer of black and green chipping.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, I know, sounds like some sort of chipception, but I think the effect we're after is going to look pretty cool. Okay, so now with some Tamiya flat white, it's time to start applying the winter whitewash. I apply it with thin coats, putting less paint on the parts that are going to be more heavily chipped, especially around the engine cowling, because field applied washable water-based paint didn't react very well to hot engines. That's my guess, but let me know if I'm wrong. I had a bit of trouble with chipping the paint away because I applied it a little thick in some areas where maybe I shouldn't have went so overboard with it, but it all worked out in the end. I especially like how the engine cowling turned out with the translucent white paint revealing the green paint underneath. Here you could see the multi-layered chipping effect we were after. The multiple colors really add some depth and texture to the wings and make them seem like the aircraft is old and beaten and worn. The areas I was not happy with, I just resprayed with some white. The panels behind the exhaust pipes were in bare metal, so I painted them with AK Extreme stainless steel. It has this like bluish hue to it, which is a nice contrast to the aluminum we have on the wings. And then I painted the wheel wells with a brush and some Vallejo acrylic paints. I simply mixed a bunch of grays together to get as close of a color to the lacquer paints that we painted the cockpit with. Finally, we can shoot a coat of clear varnish over the model once we're done, so we can prepare the surface for some decals. The carrier film on these was really quite thin, which meant that it was really easy to get them sitting in some of those panel lines. The only gripe I have was that to save space, they were printed on a very, very small decal sheet. They were all clumped together randomly, and you really have to be careful when cutting them out not to accidentally cut into another decal. But that's not too big of an issue. In the end, they sat pretty much flush with the surface. They even included a separate diagram for all the tiny stencils, like fuel cap labels, warning labels, don't touch the propeller when it's spinning labels, and all that good stuff. Once all of those were done, we can seal everything again with a layer of clear varnish to prepare the surface for washes, oils, and other weathering effects, which will be coming next time, which means it's time to wrap this up. So do I like how it's turning out so far? It's not bad, I think, especially for first time winter whitewash. There's actually not much that needs to be done here, just some washes, oils, weathering, and the landing gear and propeller sub-assemblies, which, yeah, we're going to finish next episode. Leave a like if you enjoyed, or something, and yeah, don't forget to tune in for the next episode if you want to see the finished product. Yeah, that's it. I hope you have a great day. Peace.